So additionally, what you can do is configure the MCP of Taskmaster inside Claude Code. This is how it's done. So you literally execute the Claude command. The so-called switch is MCP, and then add the scope, the user, and then the name of the actual package, and then you provide these two environment variables that are important, like Entropix API key and Perplexity API key. The steps are as following. You copy this, you go to your terminal, and then execute it. I already have done. I will just show you. You just need to make sure that you provide these API keys properly. And then when you go to your Claude terminal, and then you should see something like, if you type /mcp and then lest, you should see that this little thing showing connected. And if you go inside, then you see all the details. You can see all the tools. I think there are like 32 tools attached to this MCP server, which will give you a great start when you're building this. In order to kind of like refresh the entire context of this project, we're going to create a new GitHub repository here. And then we will take it from there, because the previous one was an example of combining all of them together. Samantha lead gen. Let's create a totally new one and initiate Taskmaster there. As I'm going to call it Samantha Voice AI lead gen, for example. Now I'm going to copy this, bring it to the terminal I have. For the rest of the course, we're going to use this as our repository. So what I want to do here is put a very nice combination of cursor, Claude Code, and Taskmaster. So I'm going to have a terminal here. Like before, since we are going to do a lot of YOLO mode, I'm going to make sure that we have this YOLO mode also running here, the div container. So I already have the YOLO mode in the last project. So I'm going to just bring literally this is hidden, so you need to press Command Shift dot in order to see the hidden files. All I need is literally this div container so that I can spin off a new container from there. And now I will open this with div container, open containers, open in folder, div containers, open in container folder, which is going to be this new one. The first time it takes time, so it's absolutely fine. We're gonna have this particular container running here. Now the terminal is showing this workspace. That's absolutely fine. This is our cursor terminal. This is going to be our Claude terminal. And one more thing we're going to do is, so this still doesn't have, as you can see, doesn't have the Taskmaster stuff. So we're going to quickly remove this file, which is automatically generated by macOS. I think we can do the initial commit here, added div container for Claude Code. That's basically the very first step. Now what we can do is we can initiate the Taskmaster in the terminal. This way, we already have then our all default settings of Taskmaster. This will add all of these files that we need later on. I'm going to add a Taskmaster to our project. Now, if I go to the terminal, Taskmaster comes with a template of PRD, this PRD. And I know what I'm looking for. The requirement of my project is pretty clear to me. And I can use this as a template in order to create a PRD. This way, then I can create the PRD in a great detailed manner. So since I have my Claude Code running and with the MCP integration, I can, in the next videos, show you how to initiate a very detailed Taskmaster command so that the Claude Code uses Taskmaster in order to execute this in the next steps. So since this is a very intensive back and forth prompting task, I'm going to just initiate it here immediately, just to kind of like give you a general overview of how I'm doing it. And then I'm going to stop the recording, really spend a little bit of time to make sure that the produced task is correctly done, especially this PRD, because if the PRD is not done properly, then all the input that goes to Taskmaster or all the tasks that Taskmaster will generate like this, they will eventually be not a nice instruction to Claude Code, and therefore Claude Code will hallucinate and then will generate something that we do not want. So that being said, let's create a prd.txt in this folder, and then I'm going to use Claude 4 Sonnet here, and this already has this feature of like drag and drop here. I'm not yet using the Claude Code interface because I'm going to use Claude Code interface only for super detailed task execution, not PRD generation. I'm okay with going with cursor when I'm generating my PRD. And I'm going to use here, based on this template, I drag and drop the template. Please generate a detailed PRD inside I add prd.txt. Here are my answers. So what are my answers? The answers could be here, like literally everything from this goes inside here. And then you need to press Command Shift V so that it doesn't paste it with these lines, but it pastes it here like this, so that I can spend a little bit time and then like literally go and answer every single question in here in great detail. Since this is an intensive process, like I need to make sure that this input is done properly, I'll do this off the recording and then we'll see each other in the next video. So one important aspect is that you go in great detail. So I copied it from there. Here you can see how detailed information I have just written for overview and core features and user experience. And since this is inside Cursor, and Cursor AI can help me write this. For example, if I write key user flows and then use the tab feature, I can use AI to generate all these user flows and then read this entire text that's generated by AI and confirm if it goes in that direction of my expectations. Now, these are all coming from the taskmaster template, but since it's there, then the AI behind cursor picks it, and then it helps me in this way. Like the Kanban view should be responsive and should work on all devices. The Kanban view should have easy use to be intuitive and should visually appealing and should use intuitive. So here you can see that the entire sentence is repeated here, and then you can clean it up. Since it's AI, it can make mistakes. You need to kind of like be careful not to just rely too much on this text that is generated by AI, and instead make sure that you have your intuitions in it as well. Like, for example, I want the Kanban drag and drop feature should be smooth and should not be lagging. The Kanban should use, I don't know why it keeps repeating the same sentence again and again. All right, so this way you can go on. I will continue for the rest of the document. Then we see us in just a minute. All right, so I am done with a very detailed PRD that I have created. I'm going to paste it here inside this box so that it has all the details. It is reading it and it's going to write a detailed PRD based on my inputs in this text file. Well, the entire text that I already had is already good enough for this PRD to be kind of like pasted here. This is good enough, but I would like the LLM to kind of go through all the instructions that I have given and enhance it based on that text, so that it kind of like explores a little bit more data points, because it was literally me typing. Maybe a single sentence can be enhanced once it goes through an LLM, especially with that structure in place. And then the next step will be for me to review this generated PRD, and then I'll git commit git push to my version S3, and then I'll move to the next task, which would be running Claude Code and then executing all the details of this. So now, as you can see, it's generating this file in great detail. Literally, the 80 lines of text probably will become super detailed. That's the reason I want to generate it once with my approach. Since I have mentioned this before in another video, another way to generate your PRDs are also from here. You can ask here something like this. Can you create a canvas and generate an entire PRD for my project based on the following context? So this way is also a better way to do your PRDs, because then it is literally sitting here on the right side, and then you can select a specific part and then ask the AI to generate something in that sense. All right, so now here you can see now this is a way more detailed PRD. It's like, I don't know, 400 lines from the 80 lines, and it also has like generated samples of the JSON, the payload, and so on, which will be way more in detail once it goes inside the Claude Code basically brain or engine. One thing while it was generating is that we don't need to do is timelines. I saw that it was generating timelines, something to do here, spacing strategy. So we don't need this because we are going to generate it with AI. So you can ask it like this, that we don't need this section. I can also delete it myself, but I recommend doing it through the chat window so that the AI brain also gets updated on what needs to be done. So basically, AI removes it. And then you go from head to toe and make sure that um, you double check this entire detailed document and make sure that nothing is misunderstood by the AI, like this particular one, which was kind of like we already mentioned that we don't need to put deadlines, but it put deadlines there. So I'll do another round of review of this and then I'll resume the recording. These are common problems that you should be able to pick, especially since the LLMs have a cutoff date, and most of the software at the time was in a different version. And if this instruction goes to Claude Code or any LLM that's generating code, will generate code for you that is not relevant. For example, Next.js 14 is old. Right now, the current um, Next.js is 15 point something. So uh, Next.js current version is 15.4. But as of the cutoff the date of this, it is showing Next.js 15. I will say 15.4 so that it picks the latest one. So therefore, it's important to keep skimming and going through that. Now, this one, React DND, I understand that it is an outdated npm package. So you need to, is it this one, I think? No, this is not the one that's outdated. This is correct one. But kind of like double check the packages that it picks, like DND kit. There's something that is deprecated. This one, for example, this one is deprecated. If the LLM picked that one, then you can go and change it in the PRD itself. So this one seems to be a good one. Let's double check the npm package of that. So it has 3.6 million weekly downloads. This looks to be okay, and so on and so forth. How would you know to check these things? Ask the LLM. So go back and then ask ChatGPT in a way that you can kind of like ask ChatGPT, can you please search the internet for latest information and see if this npm package is good? And then basically put two LLMs in a search to each other, like the input of this will become the output of this will become the input of Claude, and so on and so forth. So I'll continue skimming through this, and I found something. I'll resume the recording. One thing I'd really like to do when I'm building web applications is that I go in these phases, as I have already mentioned, and it is correctly identified it. The development phase is like first it goes spins off the whole application with mock data, then it enhances the UX, and then it goes to integrating the entire Supabase. But one thing it doesn't do here is that it says replace mock data with real database operations, but maintain the mock data and provide a script in package.json that I would be able to spin off my project with the mock data. This line will allow me to have like literally spin off the entire project without any worries of having some data or not, because this mock data in here, you can see that it says create comprehensive mock data structure, mock.json, with sample leads, phone calls, emails, and evaluations. So for my testing or for my presentation purposes, if I'm, let's say, building a startup and I want to do a lot of presentations, then I can kind of like have a simple way to do presentations each time with sample data, with sample mock data, not real database data. So this is important. So since it's AI, it can always misunderstand something, some ambitious words that are used in the prompt, and therefore literally this entire section, this phase 4, advanced features in polish, in this polish thing, is extra. I never talked about this. So activity log, exporting to CSV and PDF, email notifications, keyboard shortcuts, end-to-end tests, comprehensive testing. I have never spoke about this. So this entire section has to go away. It's out of the scope. So therefore, I highly recommend, because once this thing is done, then we're not looking at this again. So for your project, I highly recommend take an entire day to read your PRD and make sure that that PRD is done in the right way. Obviously, this is just a kind of like an educational content what we're doing, or an educational project. It's not fully done product. It has a lot of loose ends. But in your project, in your MVP, if you're building it for your startup, what you will end up doing is probably you will spin off one project in a couple of weeks, and then you do a lot of iterations of that. You go back and forth and then show it to your customers, collect some feedback, and then come back, and then you create again and again and again. So my recommendation is that you use so-called sim versioning or semantic versioning. There's a Simver is a website where you can do versioning based on this. I'll explain this in the next video so that I can explain this in great detail. But mainly what I'm trying to say here is create a new PRD for every single version that you're going to spin off, and then reference the old PRDs as and when needed, because then you can have like a very isolated context of that part. And as I mentioned before, context engineering is nothing but this. Context engineering is a new way of kind of explaining to LLMs how to manage the context of this. So with that being said, I'm going to finish the rest of this document. I think it's almost done. And then in the next video, we're going to have a look at how to manage multiple PRDs with sim versioning, and then I will spin off Claude Code to take this particular PRD and then start executing or creating the taskmaster tasks. So see you in the next video.